All right, guys. So with Kinstretch today, we're going to work a push-up prerequisite class. Okay, so we're going to spend a lot of time in our shoulders mostly. Okay, but then also exploring some movements from push-up as a base position. So kind of with that said, we'll start just with some lower effort cars, kind of neck, spine, hip, and wrist. Then we're going to ramp things up for shoulder and go from there. This is one of my personal favorite classes, so I hope you guys like it as well. We say push-up prerequisite. I'd argue it's really just a pressing prerequisite, okay? Really, whether we're talking anything from a push-up to any sort of like strict press to an overhead position, anything like that, this class should prep you for pretty well, okay? So, with that said, I'm gonna stand, work some neck stuff. Going wide with my feet, nice stable base. Neck car starting, double chin. Retracting that chin, pull it in, double chin, and start to segment. One joint at a time, moving that neck down into flexion until chin meets sternum. We get chin to sternum, I'm gonna go to the right, dragging my chin across my chest toward my right shoulder. Laterally flexing, ear over shoulder. Starting to move the neck into extension, reaching the head back behind me, drawing a line across the ceiling with my chin. Left ear over left shoulder. Chin down toward left shoulder. Chin across chest, back to the middle, and going right across right chest, right ear over right shoulder, working into neck extension, left ear over left shoulder, chin to left shoulder, chin across chest, back to the middle, and up tall. And once more, double chin. Start to flex slowly, one joint at a time, really squeezing out each bit of motion through the neck. When we get chin to chest, let's drag chin across left chest toward left shoulder. As much rotation as you can get. Laterally flex, ear over shoulder. Reach the head back, move it into neck extension. Big line across the ceiling with your chin there. Right ear over right shoulder. Tucking chin down toward right shoulder. Drag chin across the chest, all the way across toward that left side. Laterally flex, ear over shoulder. Transition into neck extension. Big circle with the neck here. Right ear over right shoulder. Chin down to right shoulder. Chin across the middle toward the sternum. And we're up tall. Into spine. Big old bear hug. Same motions as the neck. Let's pull the elbows in toward the chest there. Start to flex from the upper back. Slowly flexing down into the lower back. You can feel the flexion in the lower back occur. From there, I'm going to my right. Rotating to the right. Until I'm maximally rotated through spine. Now laterally flexing, bringing my shoulder over my hip. Transitioning into extension. Draw a big line across the ceiling with your elbows. Left shoulder over left hip. Pack those elbows now down into your ribs, transitioning back into flexion toward the midline. Stand up tall. Once more, packing elbows down into chest, flexing segment by segment down through that lower back. When we're fully flexed, we're going to rotate all the way to the right, laterally flex, shoulder over hip, transition into spine extension. Over toward that left side, left shoulder over left hip. Packing those elbows down into the chest. Bringing it back to the middle. Standing up tall. Now to the other side, we're packing those elbows down into the chest. We're flexing. Trying to feel every bone move through that spine. And deep flexion there. Play with the contraction through your abs. Really try to flex out a little bit more motion. Now rotate to the left. Find the end of your rotation to the left. Laterally flex, bringing left shoulder over left hip. Transition slowly into the extension there. Big line across the ceiling with your elbows. Right shoulder over right hip. Elbows down into ribs. All the way to the middle, standing up tall. And then one more to the left, packing those elbows down. Trying to push the spine basically through your back. You're flexing so hard here. Now we're rotating to the left. Laterally flexing to the left. Transitioning into extension. Feeling every bone extend slowly as we transition toward that right side. Ultimately, packing those elbows back down into the ribs, transitioning back to the middle. It's not that cold, Billy. I barely started, man. I'm already losing a layer. Now, if you want to, grab the dowel for your hip cars, just for balance. We'll come back to hip cars a little bit later, so just use these few reps as a chance just to prime the hips for movement. I'm going to start with my right side, bringing my right foot across toward my left hip, as much across the body as I can. Maintaining this rotation, I'm opening the hip out to hip abduction. Kick the foot back into internal rotation, as far as we can into internal rotation. Start to extend the hip until it comes back to neutral. We're going to reverse, extend the hip. Now, slowly, externally rotating. Feel the work through the glutes and the side of the hip as you pull the knee slowly toward the ceiling. Kick the foot away from the body, across the body, down to neutral. Once more, bringing the foot across the body, opening the hip out to the side, kicking the foot back into internal rotation, as much internal rotation as you can, transition into hip extension, back to neutral, reverse, extend the hip, externally rotate, slowly, 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 feel that rotation through the joint, kick the foot away, bring the leg across the body, down to neutral, switch sides. Start now, left foot coming across the body. Find that deep external rotation of the hip here. Open the hip out to the side to abduction. Internally rotate. Kick the foot back as far as you can. Then transition to hip extension. To neutral. Extend. Externally rotate. Feel the work through the side of the hip. Carry that knee up toward the ceiling. High, high, high. Kick the foot away from the body. Bring it across the body. Down to neutral. Once more, bring that ankle foot across the body, feel the work through the groin. Holding that, opening out to the side. At abduction, internally rotate. Kick the foot back. Extending. Good. Reverse, extend the hip. Externally rotate, pull the knee up toward the ceiling. Kick the foot away from the body. Bring it across the body. Down to neutral. Relax. For wrists, I'm going to make a fist. I'm going to start with my palms facing toward the ceiling. We're going to do both at the same time. I'm going to begin by flexing the palms toward my body. I'm going to deviate the fists toward the midline. Maintaining that deviation, I'm going to extend the wrist down toward the floor. Maintaining extension, I'm going to deviate away from my body. Then I'm going to flex again toward my body, deviate toward the midline, extend, deviate away from the body, flex toward the body, wrists are hard, deviate toward the midline, extend away from the body, deviate away, flex, shake them out. We're going to reverse it now. I'm going to start by extending, deviate toward the midline, flexing now, all the way in toward the chest. Start to deviate away from the body. Now extending the wrist, maintaining that deviation. Deviate toward the midline, flexing toward the chest, deviate away from the body, extend, deviate toward the midline, flex, deviate away, and rest. Now, last week we talked a little bit about adding constraints to the system for cars. Okay, so to do that for the shoulder and kind of getting us ready for where we're going to spend a lot of time today, I want you all to grab the dowel behind your body. okay? So notice my setup here. My thumb's pointing toward the floor. My shoulder is in what is called an extended position, okay? So from that position of shoulder extension, we're gonna do two things. We're gonna work some shoulder and scapular cars, okay? But I want you also the whole time conscious of driving the dowel into the ground, okay? So at no point am I just like kind of like loosey-goosey holding this dowel back here. I'm pushing the dowel down. I'm gonna start palm away from the body. I'm gonna reach across the body. Go slowly with that, Billy. Reaching up, overhead, full tension through the shoulder. At full overhead, start to internally rotate. Resist any sort of torso compensation there. We're just moving the shoulder, continuing to internally rotate. I'm still driving that dowel down. And reverse. Extend the shoulder. Take out the rotation completely. Transition full overhead. Bring it across the body. Down to neutral. And again, reach across the body. Slowly transitioning to full overhead. Still driving that dowel down. Internally rotate the shoulder and start to extend. Trying to keep that arm as close to your body as you can as you reach back. Tension the whole way. At the bottom, extend the shoulder maximally. Find that end range extension. Take out the rotation completely. Transition to full overhead. Bring it across the body. And shake it out for a second. Now with the scapula, I'm going to start arm facing away from you here like I'm throwing a punch. Okay? We're going to push the shoulder blade forward. We're going to shrug the shoulder blade up toward the ears. We're going to pull the shoulder blade back. And we're going to lower the shoulder blade down toward the hip. Push it forward. Shrug it high. Pull it back. Drive it down. Push it forward. Now pull it back. Shrug it up. Push it forward. Pull it down. Pull it back. Shrug it up. Push it forward. Switch sides. Okay, now driving that other arm, dowel down, trying to smash the floor, palms open to our side. We're going to reach across the body. Try to find as much motion as you can here, as much range of motion as you can. Get to full overhead. Start to internally rotate. Reaching back. By driving that dowel down, we are limiting lots of torso rotation here. At the bottom, extend the shoulder straight back. Take out that rotation completely. Transition up to full overhead. Start to turn the palm toward the ceiling, bringing the arm across the body. Down towards starting position. Kind of reset, drive that dowel down. Reach across the body. Transition slowly up to full overhead. At full overhead, internally rotate. Extend the shoulder. Continuing to internally rotate. Lots and lots of tension through that shoulder the whole way. When hand gets to hip, extend. Take out rotation completely. Transition up to full overhead. Bring it across the body. Shake it out for a second. Some harder shoulder cars, huh? And with that scap, we're going to start. Drive that dowel down. If you're tired of shoulder extension, we've barely got started there. So I'm punching away from the body. Shrugging the shoulder up toward my ears there. Pulling that shoulder blade back. Pushing it down toward my hip. Pushing it away from my body. Shrugging it up. Pulling it back. Driving it down. Pushing it forward. Shrugging it up. Pulling it back. Down. Forward. Reversing. Pulling it back. Shrugging it up toward my shoulder. Pushing it forward. Pushing down toward the hip. Pulling back. Shrugging up toward the ear. Pushing forward. lowering it down, pulling back, relax. Now, with the elbow, I'm going to hold the dowel just about in the middle, okay? And we're going to work first just a few axial rotations, they're called, okay? Where your goal is going to be try to turn the palm basically as you know, kind of as either as parallel to the floor as possible, or if you can, even further away, okay? And then we go the other way. We're trying to get as much rotation this way as possible. Now, after a few reps, I'm going to suggest we get the other hand involved, and when you get toward your end range position, you're going to give yourself a little bit of assistance to get deeper rotation, and then we're going to try to hold those positions by moving those hands away, okay? So, first with the axials, I'm going with my right hand. I'm starting palm up toward the ceiling. I'm just going to rotate as far as I can. When I'm at the end of that rotation, I'm going to bring it back the other way. As far as I can. After a few reps, start to feel like you're getting a sense of those little muscles around the elbow area working to dictate this rotation. Really, really squeezing those things out at the ends of those rotations. Higher tension on that, Ryan. Really squeezing that dowel. Bring it back open one more time this way. And with the hand, start to assist deeper into what's called supination here. Once we're deep in supination, start to squeeze with the hand holding the dowel. Remove the assisting hand and hold those positions, holding 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rotate back the other way. As you get toward the end of that rotation, assist with the hand once again. Dictating now more pronation into the wrist and the elbow there. Start to hold some tension, squeezing with the hand, holding the dowel and holding. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bring it back out. One more sequence like that. All the way into supination. Deeper into supination with the assisting hand there. Start to squeeze that dowel really, really hard. Don't lose that rotation. Holding 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Into pronation now. As you get to the end of your active pronation, assist with that other hand. Get as deep into that position as you can. Squeeze that dowel. Try to crush it between your fingers and hold that position. Pronation. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and switch. And let's just do a few axials. I'm starting by pronating, turning the palm toward the floor, and supinating. Palm up toward the ceiling as far as I can here. Back into pronation. Squeezing tension through the forearm and the elbow here. All the way into pronation. All the way back out into supination. One more, now down into pronation. With the other hand, I'm going to assist. I'm going to dictate deeper pronation into this elbow and wrist area here. Start to squeeze that dowel. Don't lose that rotation. Holding 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And open now into supination. At the end of supination, assist. Deeper into that position. Squeeze, 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 and hold 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All the way back in pronation. We're going to start to drive that dowel down, deep, deep, deep in pronation, squeezing, holding tension, holding 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and opening, last one, all the way into supination here. Get as deep as you can on this one, really hold that tension, holding it, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. We're going to get down into quadruped to start here. Our goal is wrist extension. Now, I'm gonna splay my fingers apart really, really wide. The wider my fingers are apart, the stronger my base of support is through my hand here, okay? With that in mind, playing kind of with this position of the elbows, if you're all looking at me here, I'm gonna go into full pronation, okay? So my biceps are facing in toward my chest. From that position, I'm just gonna lean forward, finding that pressure stretch sensation along the back of my wrist. Getting as deep into this position as you can. We're gonna settle into this position of wrist extension for a good minute and a half or so here. Now, just for a little bit of body awareness while you're here, supinate those elbows. Turn the biceps away from your chest. Notice that you're probably getting a little deeper into wrist extension, okay? Pronate them again. Just kind of playing with wrist extension here. The more time we spend in wrist extension, the more you're aware of how your body reacts in this position, the better. Assume we're about 90 seconds at this point. So our Pale's effort contraction will be to push the fingers and the hand down into the ground, okay? So start 10% effort Pales. You're pushing the earth away with your hand, with your fingers, curling those fingertips into the ground. Increasing effort now, 30% effort Pales, 50% effort Pales. Now I want you, deep breath. Trap some air into your belly. Start to tension through the core, squeeze through those biceps, those shoulders, your pecs, and push that earth away harder at 70%, 80%, and now your strongest, safest effort, driving the earth away with those hands, holding, pushing as hard as we can, down, 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 holding, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release those Pales, stay in your stretch. Now for your rails effort, you are going to try and lift your hand and fingers off the ground, okay? So, start and squeeze through the forearms. Consciously tension those muscles, okay? Now try to pull your hand toward your forearm and your forearm toward your hand. So I'm squeezing and I'm pulling myself deeper into this position. Feel that work all the way behind the wrist. High effort rails contraction, pulling. Forearm to hand, hand to forearm for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Shake them out a little bit. We're going to transition now into a passive range hold for the wrist. We're going to get right back into that deep position of wrist extension, okay? From there, you're going to go about a rails effort contraction. So squeezing forearm toward wrist and squeezing hand toward forearm. What you're going to do is slowly rock your hips back and start to elevate the hands off the floor as soon as you can, and then hold those positions there with the wrist fingers elevated for a good 10 seconds or so. That clear? So, shake them out if you need to. We're going to spend some time down here. And find yourself into wrist extension. Start to tension through those forearms. Just start squeezing all the muscles through the forearms. Now start to try to lift the fingers and the hand off the floor. Slowly start to rock back. The heel of your hand is going to stay in contact with the floor. At the first moment that your fingers come off the floor, hold that position there. Holding. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release. Find yourself all the way back, deep wrist extension there. Let's squeeze through the forearm. Start to lift the fingers off the floor. Start to shift back. The heel stays down on the ground there. Fingers come off and hold. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release. Okay. Nobody ever thinks about their wrist extension, right? Okay, now shoulder adduction. I'm going to cramp on shoulder adduction, just so you know, so chances are someone else in this room is going to as well. Our setup is going to be to push the arm across the body and then sort of like kind of lean down, kneel onto it as though I'm trying to basically touch my chest to my arm. Okay, so everyone has done this kind of stretch before across the body. You can do this upright like I am here, okay? I just am gonna prefer to get a little deeper into it with my body than I can just by pulling my arm, okay? So if this feels tricky, down toward the ground, regress to this position. It doesn't matter, it's still the same range of motion. So we're kind of leaning down here, arms across the body, chest is approximated to shoulder. The tissues getting stretched are kind of along the back of the shoulder. There's a pressure through the chest area more than likely here. When the time comes, our Pale's effort contraction is to drive the hand, the arm, the whole shoulder into the floor. Our Rail's effort contraction is going to be to basically try to just squeeze through the pec as though you're trying to lift your arm off the floor. Correct, right? We're going for that shoulder adduction. The more you keep your chest kind of squared to the floor, the more adduction you're going to feel. If my shoulder's elevated or something like that, then I'm not quite in shoulder adduction. So for you there, Larry, try maybe to get the chest a little bit more parallel to the floor, unless it's just uncomfortable in the shoulder, in which case you regress as you need to. But when my left shoulder in this case is up toward the ceiling, I'm not quite in that deep adduction, so I'm kind of down like this. Same with you there, Billy. Try to get that, in your case, bring that right elbow back, right? And just, chest to floor. There we go. Okay. Now, 10% effort Pales. You're just going to start to push that arm into the floor. 30% effort Pales. We're driving the earth away with the arm here. 50%. 70%. Strongest, safest effort. Pushing the arm into the floor. Pushing. Drive the earth away with your arm there. Holding. Holding. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, settle. Now, start to squeeze through pec. This is where someone's gonna cramp, I can tell you already. We're squeezing through pec. What I'm gonna do is basically with my other hand, push my body away, try to hold my arm as hard as I can across my chest. Holding, holding, holding. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, collapse it back down. Rest for a second. If anybody cramped, I'm sorry. When you're ready, another effort with sort of a rail/passive hold here. Squeeze through pec. You're trying to pull the arm into your chest here. I'm squeezing everything. I'm gripping a fist as hard as I can. I'm squeezing through my pec. And I'm gonna lift my body away from the floor, holding the arm across the body again for another 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Let it go. That's a hard one. Really hard. Let's go to the other side. In my professional opinion, shoulder adduction, what we're working right now, is the most neglected range of motion in the shoulder. Everyone wants to push heavy weights and things like that, but nobody ever brings their arm all the way across their body, except for some like meaningless 5-second stretch. All right, 10% effort. Pales contraction, drive this arm into the floor. Feel that work through the deltoid, rear side of the shoulder there. 30% effort, pushing the whole arm down. 50%, 60, 70, 80. Strongest, safest effort, driving the arm down into the floor. Keep driving as hard as you can. Squeeze a fist. Get everything you got here. Another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release those pails. Start to acclimate here. Now squeeze some tension through the pec. Try to pull that arm farther into the chest. Push the body away from the floor. Holding tension through that pec. Hold, embrace that cramp. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Settle down to the floor. One more here. I'm suffering right along with you on this one, guys. Squeeze through that shoulder there. Try to pull the arm in toward the chest, tensioning through the pec. Squeeze your fist with all you got, and lift off, holding, holding, holding. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, release. Okay. All right, so next section, I would argue kind of the meat of what we're going for today, shoulder extension, okay? The setup on this is one of two things. We can do it half kneeling, like so, okay? My thumb is gonna be pointing toward the floor, holding that dowel, okay? So I can set up like this, or the next setup is gonna be face down, okay? What you're gonna do is walk your hand up the dowel until you feel a good, strong stretch. Front of the shoulder, okay? A little bit into the pec, but mostly right along the front of that shoulder, creating that position of shoulder extension, okay? After we work our pails and rails, we are gonna be face down. So it's up to you whether you wanna do this from a half kneel or you wanna do this face down, okay? Just settling into the stretch, I'm walking my hand up that dowel until I'm in a deep stretch. I feel a lot of stretch sensation through the front of the shoulder here. One little cue there is try to resist flexion through the trunk, okay? The more we flex through the trunk, we're actually losing shoulder extension. So even bring yourself up as tall as you can. So, sorry, to release pressure, you said? If he needs to bend the elbow a little bit, that's fine. Yep. One other consideration is that if the dowel is away from the body, we're not in pure shoulder extension. So try to keep that dowel relatively close to your body. Almost like your arm is just straight back behind you. Chest up, chest proud, chest squared away from us, arms straight back. Now, 10% effort pails. We're pushing the dowel into the ground. You're trying to dent the floor with the dowel. 30%. 50%. This force is coming from the front of the shoulder. You feel your bicep squeezing. You feel your pec working. We're pushing the dowel down 70%, 80%. Strongest, safest effort. Driving that dowel down. Driving down. Holding. Holding. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release those pails. Now, squeeze through the back of the shoulder, through the tricep, through the deltoid, through the scap. Lift that dowel off the ground. You should be hovering an inch off the ground. Holding, holding, holding. Keep hovering, keep squeezing. Keep squeezing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Now, everyone face down. We're going to do one more sequence, pails and rails. I want you doing this from your belly. Walk your hand up as far as you can on that dowel. Same rule, keep it close to the body. Billy, get that closer to your body, man. Thumbs pointing toward the floor. Settle into that deep stretch there a little bit. Won't stretch quite as long as that first sequence kneeling. Let's go ahead, start driving that dowel down. 10% pails. Ramp to 30. Ramp to 50. Squeeze the dowel. Tension everything. Driving down 70, 80. Now, strongest, safest effort, holding. 10, 9, 8. Keep driving down. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Into rails immediately. Squeeze that tricep. Lift that dowel off the ground. Hold. Keep lifting. Try to touch the top of that dowel to the ceiling. Keep lifting straight up. Straight up. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dowels down. Okay, now I'm going perpendicular for a second here. What we're going to do, I want you to put your fist underneath your elbow, flat on the floor. Okay? You're going to pull the elbow toward the ceiling. Okay? As though you, if you could, your upper arm is perpendicular to the floor and the ceiling. Okay? So I'm pulling the elbow up as high as I can. I am then going to work hinges. We're going to extend at the elbow, pull that fist back down underneath us. Okay? Do not let the position of the elbow change as we hinge. Okay? The height of that elbow to the ceiling is going to stay the same for this entire sequence. Okay? So, put that fist underneath your shoulder. Pull the elbow up toward the ceiling. Before we move anything, you should feel the work around the shoulder blade. You should feel the work into the upper arm. Keep that elbow up tall. Hinge at the elbow. We're reaching the hand up toward the ceiling now. Now we're pulling the hand back underneath that elbow, back to the floor. Pull the elbow straight up again. Full tension. Extending at the elbow there, hinging. Pulling the fist back underneath the arm, down to the floor.
Pull the elbow straight up toward the ceiling. Farther motion, deeper than last time. Extend at the elbow, hinging at the elbow there. Pulling that fist back underneath the elbow, fist to the floor. One more. Pull the elbow straight up toward the ceiling. As far as you can, holding that position there, and extend at the elbow, hinging, full tension, flexing the fist back underneath the shoulder, fist to the floor, and rest. Now, arms all the way down toward your hip. Right hand, I'm doing my right side. We're gonna work a half position shoulder car, bias toward extension. So, I'm going to extend the shoulder, take out the rotation completely, transition all the way to full overhead. Okay? So we'll start again. My palm is facing away from my hip, thumb pointing toward the ceiling. I'm extending the shoulder as far as I can, taking out that rotation completely, reaching up toward the ceiling, as much range of motion as possible through the shoulder. Touch the hand toward the floor in front of you. Reach up into shoulder flexion. Start to internally rotate. Reaching as high up toward the ceiling as we can, continuing to internally rotate until we bring that hand slowly back down to the hip. Again, tension. Extend the shoulder maximally. Take out the rotation completely. Transition. All the way to full overhead. Touch the hand to the floor. Flex the shoulder up fully overhead. Start to internally rotate. Reaching the hand, the arm toward the ceiling. Bringing it down toward the hip. Palms away from the hip. One more sequence. Extend the shoulder maximally. Take out that rotation completely. Transition that shoulder fully overhead. Slowly, 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 slowly. Touch the hand to the floor. Reach up into shoulder flexion. Start to internally rotate. Reaching up toward the ceiling. Continuing to internally rotate until the hand finishes at the hip. And come up to tall kneeling. That sucks.
Okay. I love it. Okay, now, other side. We're going to do that again. Now remember here, the farther my arm is out to the side, the less shoulder extension I've got. So I'm trying to keep my chest up, my chest proud and squared away from my body. My arms should be reaching mostly straight back, thumb pointing toward the floor. Just find that deep position of shoulder extension on your body. If you need to climb your hand up the dowel a little bit higher, just keep exploring. Find that stretch through the front of the shoulder, through the pec a little bit. Yeah, Abby, this would be a good class for you too. All right, team, 10% effort pails. Start to dent that floor with your dowel. 30%, driving down. Billy, stay up and stay tall, man. Up and proud. 50% effort, drive that dowel down. 70%, strongest, safest effort. Drive that dowel into the ground. Smash that floor. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, hard as you can. 3, 2, 1. Release pails. Now, start to squeeze through that tricep. Start to squeeze by that shoulder blade. Lift that dowel off. We're hovering barely an inch off the ground. Holding, rails effort contraction for another 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it down. Everybody face down. Right back into shoulder extension from your belly. Walk your hand up that dowel. Find again that stretch into the front of this other shoulder now. Kind of settle into the stretch here a little bit. Take a few breaths. You know it's coming next, so get ready. Now with a 10% effort, start to drive that dowel into the floor. 30%, 50%, 70%, and your strongest, safest effort. Driving that dowel down, dent that floor. Keep pushing, keep pushing. Hard as you can, squeezing that dowel. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift off, rails effort contraction. Squeeze that tricep, try to lift that dowel up, try to touch the top of that dowel to the ceiling. Holding, holding, holding. Keep going. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dowel down. Breathe for a second here. We're gonna pack that fist underneath the shoulder, and we will pull the elbow as high as we can toward the ceiling. Do not lose the position of the elbow here. Start to extend at the elbow, fist up toward the ceiling, pull the fist back down under the elbow, touch the floor. Pull the elbow straight up toward the ceiling again. Try to get that upper arm as perpendicular to the floor and the ceiling as you can. Extend at the elbow. Pull the fist back underneath the elbow. Touch the floor. Lift off, pulling the elbow toward the ceiling. Again, we're trying to make it as perpendicular as we can to the floor. Extending at the elbow with that hinge. Hinging back underneath the shoulder. Touch the fist to the floor. One more, pull the elbow straight up, extend, hinge at the elbow, pull the fist back underneath the arm, touch the fist to the floor, move your arm down beside your left hip or other hip, whatever you're using here. My palm's facing away from my body. I'm going to extend the shoulder as far as I can. Take out the rotation completely. Start to swim up overhead until I'm in full overhead, touching my hand to the floor, flexing the shoulder maximally toward the ceiling, starting to internally rotate through the shoulder, reaching back, continuing to internally rotate, bringing the hand down by the side of my hip. Taking a breath and extending the shoulder. Taking out that rotation completely. Start to transition up full overhead. Touching hand down toward the floor. Flex that shoulder up overhead. Start to internally rotate, reaching the arm up toward the ceiling. Continuing to internally rotate till we get that hand down by the hip. One more sequence. Extend the shoulder maximally. Take out the rotation completely. Reaching up overhead as high as you can with that arm toward the ceiling at all times. Get full overhead. Touch the hand to the floor. One more. Bring it all the way back. Flex the shoulder fully overhead. Start to internally rotate. Reaching up toward the ceiling. We're transitioning that arm back. Internally rotating toward shoulder extension. Down to the floor. And shake it out. Oh. Okay. So to give our shoulders a little bit of a rest, rest, we're gonna work some cars from a push-up base position, okay? Starting first with some scapular cars, then some hip cars. Hip cars are tough from a push-up. One thing I want you to be aware of, these balls, consider trapping them behind a knee when we do the push-up hip cars, okay? Because a lot of people are gonna end up moving their knee and their ankle in ways when they're trying to move their hip from a push-up base, which will be negated if we just squeeze that one, okay? So, first, some shoulder blade stuff, up into a push-up, kind of tall plank, if you will. And let's push the earth away. So the shoulder blades are now out in front of the body. I'm gonna shrug my shoulders up toward my ears. I'm gonna now pull the shoulder blades back, trying to touch those shoulder blades together. Keep in that position. I'm pulling them down toward my hips, pushing the earth away. Shrugging up toward my ears, pulling the shoulder blades together, pulling shoulder blades down toward my hips, pushing the earth away. Remember, keep elbows locked out at all times here. Now let's shrug up toward ears, pull shoulder blades together, pull them down toward the hips, push the earth away, and rest for a second. We're going to reverse that motion in just a moment. We're going to spend so much time in push-up in the next 10 minutes. I'll make sure to give you guys all enough time to breathe here a little bit. Back to push-up. I'm going to start now by pulling my shoulder blades down toward my hips, pulling the shoulder blades back together. From that position, shrugging shoulder blades up toward ears, pushing the earth away as far as I can away, pulling shoulder blades down toward hips, pulling shoulder blades together, shrugging shoulder blades toward ears, pushing the earth away, pulling shoulder blades down toward hips, pulling them together, shrugging, pushing the earth away, shake it out. How are we feeling? Good? Hopefully not actually hurting. Yeah, got it. Okay, back to push-up. I'm going with my right hip first. I'm going to pull my knee toward my left elbow. Wait till everyone else is ready here. Okay, so knee toward left elbow. Now, open knee away from the body. When we're as open as we can out to the side, kick the foot toward the ceiling, slowly transitioning that hip into hip extension. Bring it back down. Touch your knee to the floor. Just the one that we're working. Extend the hip all the way. Open the leg out to the side. Bring the knee around toward the left elbow. Back down. Rest a little bit. Back up once more with the right. If you want to, this will be a time. Trap that lacrosse ball behind the knee if you feel like you need to. I'm going to pull right knee toward left elbow. Open the leg out to the side. Kick my foot toward the ceiling, getting as much internal rotation as I can out of that hip. Feel that work through my butt. Bring the knee back, touch the floor. Extend the hip. Open into external rotation, the leg out to the side. Pulling the knee up toward the chest, toward the left elbow, back down and rest. Woo. My arm's tired. And with the left side now, push up, pulling the left knee toward the right elbow, opening that leg out to the side, kick the foot toward the ceiling, internally rotating, maintaining internal rotation as we extend the hip. Bring the knee down toward the floor. Extend the hip. Externally rotate through the hip. Bringing the knee up toward that right elbow. Back down and rest.
Back to push-up, one more. Pull, left knee toward right elbow. Open that hip out to the side. Internally rotate. Feel the work through the side of the hip and the butt. Transition to hip extension. Bring the knee to the floor. Extend the hip. Externally rotate slowly. Knee up. Knee to elbow. Back down. And rest. Okay, so I'm gonna give a solid minute of rest here before we do our little finisher for today. Y'all have some yoga blocks. You can use them to get deeper into the position, okay? Meaning, we're gonna do basically just some push-ups. Well, my version of just some push-ups. Holding those blocks underneath your chest. By holding the blocks, I can get deeper into my push-up position, okay? If that feels like too much, no problem. Just do a regular push-up or regress it more, doing a knee push-up, okay? All of the above are gonna be plenty challenging, that's for sure. Let's just rest for a second. So, we're gonna do probably about 10-second eccentrics, okay? So 10 seconds on the way down till chest touches floor. Everyone here's done a hand release push-up before or something like that. We're gonna kick those hand releases up a few levels, okay? The first variation, once chest touches floor, we're gonna pull our elbows back up toward the ceiling and we're gonna work axials for the shoulder, okay? Second variation, gonna pull those elbows up, work hinges like we did a few minutes ago, okay? Third and final rep, we're gonna work two-arm swimmers, okay? Which everyone has done before. Ready? Okay. So, with blocks if you want them, or not. Start up, tall push-up position. 10-second eccentric, just kind of match my pace. 10. By the time I get to 1, our chest is on the floor. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, chest to floor. Now, pull the elbows up toward the ceiling. I'm pulling my shoulder blades together. I'm pulling my elbows toward the ceiling, almost like I'm trying to touch my elbows together behind my back. From that position, I'm squeezing a fist. I'm going to externally rotate, bringing now my hands up toward the ceiling. And now I'm going to internally rotate, bringing my hands down toward my hips, still squeezing those shoulder blades together. Now externally rotate, bringing the hands up toward the ceiling, squeezing at the end there, feel that work behind the shoulders. Internally rotate, and externally rotate. Internally rotate, oh yeah. Externally rotate. One more internal rotation. And put your hands back on your block on the floor. We're gonna push right back up to tall push-up. 10-second count beginning. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All the way tall. Okay? It's tough. Yeah, really tough. These next one, hand release, elbows go towards ceiling. As much height on the elbows as possible, and then we're hinging, okay? Done right, that hinge, you really should be feeling the work in the tall, kind of high part of the shoulder, really high part of the tricep, okay? So, starting up tall, on those blocks, or not. 10 seconds, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Chest to floor. Move the blocks away. Put those fists underneath your shoulders. And pull the elbows up toward the ceiling. Maintaining the height of the elbows. Hinge at the elbow. Hands up toward the ceiling. back under the elbow, touch the floor. Take a breath. Pull the elbows up toward the ceiling. Hinge at the elbows. Feel that work through the tricep. Squeeze in that tricep. Pull. Hands back underneath shoulders. Touch the floor. 2 more. Pull. Elbows up toward the ceiling. As high as you can there. And start to hinge at the elbow. Feel that tricep work. Holding. And hinge back. Fists under shoulders. Touch the floor. 1 more. Deep, deep breath. Pull, elbows up towards ceiling, high as possible this time. Really feel that work through the tricep, hinging at the elbow, fists up toward the ceiling, hold that tension, pull, fist back under shoulders, touch the fist to the floor. Bring those blocks back underneath you. Now pushing up at my count, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, rest. Okay, last but not least, from our bottom position, swimmers. We will start hands underneath. We're going to pull those shoulder blades back, start with the arms down here in the so-called A position. We'll pull them in toward the back, out to A, externally rotate, up to Y. Hands behind back, elbows collapse. Pull the elbows back, extend to Y, swimming back, internally rotating to A, hinge back, down. Okay? Consider, during the swim phase, imagine there's basketballs next to your body, okay? You are trying to get your arms over those basketballs, okay? So you're trying to get your arms as close to the ceiling as you can. If I'm at all like low tension and my arms are just barely off the ground, you're not getting nearly enough stimulus in this variation, okay? Unless that's as much motion as you can control. Okay, almost done, all right? So, hands underneath you, push-up position. 10-second count, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Move that stuff away. Now, I'm going to start my hands up toward my shoulder blades behind my lower back. We're going to pull the elbows off the floor. Pull the shoulder blades together. Start to extend those arms out to an A position. Start to externally rotate. Swim those arms over those imaginary basketballs. Up to a Y position. From Y, hinge at the elbows, pulling the hands behind the head. Touch the elbows to the floor. Take a breath. Pull elbows off the floor, shoulder blades together. Hinge at elbows out to Y. Now start to internally rotate the shoulders over those basketballs. Get those arms up as high as you can, down to an A position. Hinge at the elbows, pulling the hands up as high as you can behind your back. Touch the elbows to the floor. Pull, elbows back together, shoulder blades together, hands off back. Extend at the elbows to the A position. Externally rotate, swim those arms as high as you can. Slowly getting toward the Y position. From Y, hinge at elbows, pulling the hands behind the head as far as you can. Touch the elbows to the floor. Lift, elbows off the floor. Lift the hands off the head. Extend out to a Y position. Internally rotate over those basketballs. Lifting those arms up as high as you can. Down to an A position. Hinge at the elbows. Reaching the hands up behind the back as far as you can. Let the elbows touch the floor. One more sequence. Pull, elbows back. Pull shoulder blades together. Lift your hands off your lower back. Extend out to an A position. Externally rotate. Swim those arms up overhead till we're at Y. Hinge at the elbows, hands pulling behind the head. Elbows touch the floor. One more, make it count. Elbows up towards ceiling. Shoulder blades together. Lift your hands off your head. Extend out to a Y position. Your arms are as high off the floor as they can be. Start to internally rotate and swim down. My arms are as high off the floor as they can be to the A position. I'm hinging at the elbows, reaching my hands up behind my back, elbows to the floor, pulling my blocks back underneath my body, and a 10-second push. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Good work, guys.